And now we move on to our next segment, On the Table. It's over to you, Brendan.
Thank you very much, Mohana. Good evening and welcome back to the show. As we all know, the talk of the town this week, among others, is, yes, you guessed it, subsidies. So most notably and recently, diesel to be allocated to targeted recipients. So what do we know about this diesel subsidy and why is it implemented now? With us in the studio tonight is Associate Professor Dr. Ahmad Razman Abdul Latif of Putra Business School. Dr. Razman, welcome to the studio and welcome to the show. And of course, Dr. Razman, lots of concerns here with regards to this so-called hike, as we can say. So, Dr. Razman, firstly, Malaysia has cut diesel subsidies and floated retail prices to the market rate of RM3.35, an increase of about, give or take, 55% as compared to RM2.15, which began 10 June. Now, the reason behind this is that so that the country could save lots of money. We're talking about RM4 billion annually, which can be utilized for other purposes, namely Sumbangan Tunai Rahmah, STR, cash contributions, among others. Your thoughts on this?
Thank you, Brendan. Well, when we look into the figure itself, the RM4 billion, this is the savings that the government want to make for this year. But if you look at the trend of the subsidy that the government has to provide over the years, it has been increasing quite significantly.
Right.
So what does it mean? It means that the consumption of the diesel has been moving upward on upward trajectory. It's supposed to mean that the business is expanding.
Yeah.
The GDP is growing rapidly, but it's not the case. It means that we have seen some growth, but it's not in line with the increase of consumption and therefore the allocation of subsidy. This means that there are lots of leakages, there are lots of smuggling activities, and we can see why it's happening. When we look at the current price, RM3.35, before that RM2.50, the diesel price in Thailand is almost around RM4.
Right.
And Indonesia, RM4.50. And Singapore is RM9. But we know the enforcement between the Singapore and Malaysia border is quite strict. But when we look at the Thailand and Indonesia with multiple entry points and with a long borders, so they are most likely to be this kind of activity, the smuggling.
Correct.
So if the government didn't do this, the subsidy allocated will be higher and higher, and it will go towards something that will not benefit the people.
Right. So would you think that this is the best way to do it instead of like curbing all these leakages that's happening around the country? And would you think that this would bring better benefit, of course, to the nation?
Yeah, because we are not just talking about the smuggling activities. We're also talking about those T20 that have high consumption vehicle like the pickup trucks.
That consumes diesel.
They consume diesels, and also, and not to forget the foreigners who has been enjoying all these subsidies as well. So therefore, it's not just tackling one part of the problem, the smuggling, but also those who are not supposed to receive this kind of assistance. And the government also have noticed when they look into the usage of the petrol and diesel, I think T20 have been using 34% of the usage. So that's the reason, another reason why the removal of subsidies is need to be done, especially from now on.
And you would say that this is actually timely?
Yes, it have to.
Now, our heart goes out to all those who use diesel, you know, not just for their daily activities, but as their source of income. For an example, buses and school bus operators, so on and so forth. Now, it's understood that the fleet cards would somehow alleviate their burden. However, there's this tendency of these operators to raise fares and rates, and this is where it becomes unfair. What would the ramification be if this was the case?
Well, if you listen to the statement by the government today, they said if this business operator found to increase their prices without much of the reason, and the government will take harsh action like revoking their business permit. But on the consumer side also, we must play our role. We do have the Price Control and Anti-Profiteering Act. So if any businesses started to increase their price quite extreme. So the consumer need to file a complaint, and the enforcement agency will take action into this. So we must exercise our consumer power, be vigilant, observe the price changes, and the government also will fulfill their commitment to make sure no one will take advantage of the situation.
So with this kind of, we wouldn't say advantage of people to take this whole thing altogether into their own accounts, but of course it's more important that we as consumers, we can identify who is doing it unnecessarily, and it's important, our duty to actually report them. So we actually could. So Dr. Rasman, in your opinion, we talk about diesel subsidy. Next in line, everybody is concerned. Everybody is worried about what if RON 95 is next in line for this particular topic, which is price rationalisation. Diesel users have their fleet cuts to cushion it, but what about regular folks like you and I?
Well, this is a bigger challenge for the government, because for diesel, it's easy to target a certain business operator or transportation companies, but now we are talking about you and me. Okay, and that's why the government has started to collect the data through the PADU, the database. For the diesel, they go through the Budi, but for the PADU, this is where the government need to ensure that it's not just B40 will still to receive some form of subsidy, maybe cash handout, additional cash handout, but also the M40 that will still be eligible due to the size of the family, number of dependents, the location of their working or housing, and there are many other factors that need to be considered. So, and of course, when we look into the implementation of targeted subsidy for RON 95, the rationalisation, I'm sure the government will want to see what happened first with this diesel targeted subsidy, maybe to see is there any room for improvement, what are the loopholes. So I don't think the government will be, we want to do this hastily, and because now it's involved the majority of the users. So I think it's going to happen, but
we just don't know when.
But I'm sure the government will make sure majority of us probably will get some form of assistance.
Nice. Now, obviously, the move to introduce these targeted subsidies is, first and foremost, is to eliminate blanket subsidies, right? So this is, of course, to focus on aid distributions for low-income groups. Now, fuel, cooking oil and rice are among items that are subsidized, but rising commodity prices in recent years have put like a strain on these essential items. So your thoughts on this, Doctor?
Yes, interesting fact. Malaysia actually one of the few countries that have subsidized many of the essential items. And to continuously do this will not be sustainable for the government coffers. So, to remove all this altogether will not also be a good idea for the people.
Right.
So what we are looking at here is to look at what the things that can be afforded by the government, at the same time making sure that the cost of living, the prices of goods will not go up unnecessarily. And if you look into the rising prices of commodity, of course, it's going to put additional burden to the government. But what I can see now, that the government has been closely monitoring the movement and looking into all the possible scenario. With all these savings and with all the monitoring, I'm sure when they decided to finally remove some of the subsidy, the allocation of the targeted one will be efficient, and all those leakages, the wastages will be kept to the minimum. But of course, we don't expect it to be perfect for the first time. But we are moving into right direction where we are not going to see the situation where the government being spending 80 billion of subsidy every year.
Right. Now, when it comes to this, of course, we're talking about making money. And when it comes to making money, we're talking about investments. So government expenditure needs to be reduced as well to ensure that the nation's income remains sufficient for future investment. So how do we contra with subsidies that are around us right now at this point in time?
Yes, because when talking about subsidies, it's not what other countries are doing. They are moving towards a targeted cash approach, a targeted approach like cash assistance, cash handout. It's not the blanket subsidy what we're having right now. And it is still necessary to a certain group of people. We cannot simply say they have to survive on their own. So the movement, so I can see that the movement of the blanket subsidy toward the targeted cash handout will happen for the next few months or even year. And this essentially will help the productivity of the people, because the affected group will not have to worry about making their daily need, and they can focus on becoming more productive. And of course, this will help the investment and also the growth of economy in the long run. So that's what I can see. It is actually meant for the sustainability of the nation to make us more competitive.
Right, all right. Thank you so much, Dr. Rasman. Unfortunately, we don't have time to talk about the subsidies and the rationalisation about this, but of course, it is a good topic to discuss, and we thank you so much once again for being here. And if you actually miss this particular episode of On the Table, you're more than welcome to rewatch this episode on RTM Click. So once again, we had Dr. Ahmad Rasman from the Putra Business School speaking to us about the diesel subsidy rationalisation. And together with Mohana Priya, I'm Brenda Lepal. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Thanks for watching. Take care. Have a good weekend.